Vampire the Masquerade is a tabletop RPG that was created in the 1990s by White Wolf Publishing. Hi, I'm Bill Tennyson. You may remember me from such YouTube videos as Let's Grumble, The Film Review Guy, and of course my many Hootenanny Hullabaloo promo videos. And this here is Scully. Today we're going to teach you the basics of playing a game called Vampire the Masquerade.
Gee, how exactly do you play Vampire the Masquerade?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here, Scully. First, we need to know the background of the game and the setting.
So what exactly is a vampire?
Scully, you slay me. A vampire, or kindred as they refer to themselves, is an undead creature of the night that must consume blood to maintain their appearance and access their supernatural abilities.
But how are they created?
I'm glad you asked, Scully. A vampire is created by another vampire through a process called the embrace. The elder vampire, called the sire, drains a human to the point of near death and then shares their blood with the dying human. That human dies and becomes a vampire.
Vampires sound dangerous. Can you destroy a vampire? With a wooden stake?
Scully, your lack of knowledge amuses me. A wooden stake will not kill a vampire. It will only incapacitate them. To truly kill a vampire, you must either decapitate them or destroy as much of their body as possible. They only take minor damage from gunfire and can easily recover from and block lethal damage from swords and blades. Crosses, garlic, silver, and holy water have typically no effect on them.
But where do they come from originally?
Why, they come from the Bible story of Genesis. It's a very long story, but we'll cover it very briefly. So in conclusion, they're all descended from the biblical character Cain.
Wow, that was some story. All those vampires must be very powerful.
Scully, you ignorant bastard. Vampires are only as powerful as their generation, which is how many steps they are removed from the original vampire, Cain. Cain is considered to be the first generation. Each vampire he created is considered to be the second generation. The vampires they created are third, and so forth.
What exactly is Vampiric society?
Why, it's the society that makes up vampire kind. Vampiric society is broken down into three factions. The Camarilla is comprised of vampires that believe in controlling mortal society from the shadows through an elaborate guise known as the Masquerade. Essentially, they do what they must to make sure that all vampires are never exposed to mortal society. The Sabbat is directly opposed to the Camarilla in that they believe that they should rule over mortal society as their undead overlords. They do, however, make some effort to hide their existence in order to avoid incidents like the Spanish Inquisition. The Incanu are considered to be the independent group of vampires that refuse to be part of neither the Camarilla nor the Sabbat.
So that's all the variety of vampires?
Scully, you're pitiful. Vampires are divided into hereditary families, or clans as they're called. There are 13 clans of vampires, and they are... Bruja, a bunch of rabble-rousers that fight the system despite being part of the system. Gangrel, these loners are the closest thing to shapeshifters in the vampire family. Malkavian, they're all crazy, but some say they're misunderstood. Nosferatu, these ugly monsters live in the sewers and have dirt on everyone. Toreador, these pompous and artsy sorts are straight out of an Anne Rice novel. Tremere, vampires that just happen to also be mages. Ventru, a bunch of hoity-toity power players that try to control everything. La Sombra, much like the Ventru, just darker and more complex. Zemitzi, vile monsters that warp their flesh and the flesh of others. Assamites, they're vampiric assassins with a taste for vampire blood. The followers of Set, these corrupting vampires claim to be descended from the Egyptian god Set. Giovanni, the organized crime version of the underworld, and their necromancers. Ravnos, dirty, filthy, stinking gypsies. Don't trust them and their tricks. Caitiff, these abandoned or orphan vampires don't even know what clan they belong to. Just sad.
Wow, is that all there is to know about the vampire clans?
Well, yes and no, Scully. You see, the general description of a clan is really just a stereotype. Not every bourgeois is a rebel, and not every Ventru is a politician. The only thing that is fairly universal among the clans are their clan weaknesses, and their access to disciplines or supernatural abilities. The bourgeois are extra vulnerable to going into frenzies. The gangrel permanently take on the physical trait of any animal every time they frenzy. The Malkavians have incurable mental derangements. The Nosferatu are absolutely hideous and can never pass as a human. The Tremere are vulnerable to being bloodbound by their elders. In other words, they have no weakness. The Ventru can only feed on one specific type of human, because they're picky. The Lasombra casts no reflection in a mirror and will not show up on film. The Tzimisce grow weak if they are separated from their native soil. The Assamites can become dangerously addicted to vampire blood. The followers of Set are vulnerable to bright lights and take extra damage from the sun. The Giovanni have an excruciatingly painful bite that can accidentally kill their prey. The Ravnos are all slaves to at least one vice, because they're filthy, dirty gypsies. The Caitiff are considered second-class citizens in vampiric society.
But what about the disciplines?
Scully, I hate you. The disciplines are supernatural abilities that the vampire can expend blood to use. Every vampire can use blood to either heal damage, appear lifelike, temporarily boost their physical attributes, or create ghouls or other vampires. There are special powers that only certain vampires can access. Animalism allows the vampire to communicate and somewhat control lesser creatures. Auspex lets the vampire expand their senses above any mere mortal's ability. Celerity lets the vampire move at supernatural speeds. Chemistry allows the vampire to create illusions. Dementation allows the vampire to warp the minds of others. Dominate lets the vampire command the wills of others. Fortitude allows the vampire to negate most types of damage. Necromancy. Need I say more? Obfuscate allows the vampire to become so uninteresting that nobody notices them. Obtenebration lets the vampire take control of the darkness itself. Potence allows the vampire to pull off great feats of super strength. Presence allows the vampire to become so interesting that nobody can not notice them. Protean lets a vampire change their shape. Quietus lets the vampire... I don't know, it's got something to do with assassination and poison. Serpentis is a grab bag of snake-themed vampire abilities. Thaumaturgy is more magical than supernatural. It's really complicated. Vicissitude allows the vampire to warp and alter the flesh of themselves and others.
Is that all there is to know about Vampire the Masquerade?
No, you incompetent fool. There's still much more to learn about the game. But hopefully this video is a step in the right direction for teaching you how to play the basics of Vampire the Masquerade.